Hi there, welcome. Today's podcast is going to be about computer games and how they've changed the world and how they've changed themselves. Computer games have changed the world we live in. This can be argued as a bad thing, and it's bad for the health of those playing them. Everyone has an opinion, and I'm not going to say they're wrong. Gaming health is what I'm here to talk about. The history of games and how they've changed. That's the subject. Now, I could start right at the beginning and mention all the very first computer games, such as Space Wars and the Tennis for Two game. I will say that they were the pebbles that started an avalanche. But from the 16-bit games to the high-definition games of today, the concept has stayed the same. Save the princess, stop the evil overlord, protect the world. These ideas are what draw us into these types of games and make us want to play them. Popular gaming, I think, started with arcade games. There were computer games before these, but I don't think people played them with the passion that they do now. The arcade games started to gain a bit of momentum in the late 1970s. Possibly one of the most memorable games that started this rise was Space Invaders. This one game has become a piece of computer history. It's been featured in cartoons and films everywhere. It's a piece of gold. Thinking about it actually brings back memories of playing it on those big machines. Now, I was born in 1990, a time when home consoles were the big thing, where arcade machines were on, if not already on the way out. Of course, they were still around in cinemas and bowling alleys, so they still had that charm that draws us into their large size and graphics. I do think that arcade games might make a small comeback one way or another. Interactive games have reached new heights with the introduction of the Wii, and arcade games were really one of the first to implement additional shaped controllers. For example, you could ride a motorbike leaning in on corners with realistic driving controls such as steering wheels, gear levers and pedals. You can now get these additional controllers for consoles at home, but I think it won't be far off until a game comes around that you'll be able to have full control over your character, full simulation. It may be some time away, as we have consoles the size of an English dictionary at home, and who would want something the size of a smart car in their house, really? So with the rise of home consoles, video games took a new turn. No longer did you have to go out and spend coin after coin on a game that didn't really have a plot or storyline. Mainly because these arcade games just couldn't have plots like that. It wouldn't make sense. But now video games could have a storyline that you could really follow. And since you're playing from home, you didn't have to be held back by time. You had all day. Which means you could play games for longer, which is fantastic news. But computer games weren't done yet. They were still 2D flat images, but 3D was just around the corner. It had been done before with Monster Maze in the 80s, but I personally don't think it really started to work properly until the late 80s and early 90s, and it has only got better from there. 3D was the start of a new way of playing a game. You could become the character that you loved, seeing the world through their eyes. When the ability to play with others from across the world came to light, the potential was huge. Now you could play with people on the other side of the world. Networking had reached the gaming world. The challenges just got bigger. It didn't matter if you could beat all your friends at Halo when a 13-year-old kid from China was basically drilling you into the ground. The standards of play rose to new heights. You can now play in teams in competitions. These competitions have large cash prizes, and the acclaim that comes with it. Hundreds of people would know that you and your team were the best. You had proof. Computer games had moved from something more than just a game. Now, if I can just jump back to where I mentioned the Wii, because you really can't gloss over this console. The Nintendo Wii, I think, really did make a successful jump in how you control a video game. There have been previous attempts to move away from the button joystick controls, but they never really took off. The Wii took their ideas and created the Wii Remote. Now, even though the graphics are simple on most Nintendo games, it really doesn't matter when you can swing your arm instead of just pushing a button. I know that not everyone was impressed with the Wii, saying that if they wanted to exercise they would go outside, but I think what they're missing is the point. The Wii has taken the first step in what is undoubtedly to be the one of many in the race for a full body simulation. Let's face it, that's where everyone is heading. Some of the first games I can remember playing were Space Invaders, Pong and The Legend of Zelda. These three games for me, the three original games. Of course there are others before those, and everyone has their favourites. I believe this is the big point of games, because there are so many out there. There is a game for everyone, a storyline for everyone, a platform for everyone. From this point in time we'll start to see a large leap in the different types of games that are out there, and the way you can interact and play them. I can't give any specifics on which direction this is going to take. But what I can say is that the world would be a very different place without these types of games. They have their own cultures and fans. The next couple of years are going to be very exciting. Well, that's the end of today's podcast. Thanks for listening.